Good evening, YouTube land. Hope everyone's doing well out there. My name is Kip, and this is a car chat with Kip on America Bumper to Bumper. What we do on here, for those that are not familiar with car chat with Kip, we dig up stories, car stories, whether it's recalls, it might be just interesting stuff that I've seen and like. And we talk about that, and we go through the recalls, and that's the show. So I want to thank everybody who comes in here and watches this with us live, and those who watch it in the replay. Hey, Jason, how are you? I'm glad you're in the house. Appreciate it, as always. So just want to say huge thank you to everyone. Hey, Trucker Dave. Good to see you as well. Might not be for the long. Hey, whatever. Any time that you're here is a good time. All right. So again, I want to thank everyone who took the time to watch the series premiere of my Buy It or Boot It program live stream. I don't know about you guys. I had a lot of fun, and I really appreciate all the time that you guys took to stick with it and see some really interesting cars. That being said, I have to say we're going to go into channel update as soon as I pull up the right screen so I know what I'm looking at. Facebook, not a bunch has changed. We've got some a few new people that are following, and if you guys aren't aware, we do have a America Bumper to Bumper group. I know Jason, you're on there all the time posting stuff, so thank you very much. So Facebook doing pretty good, but kind of staying even. Facebook channel, or sorry, YouTube channel. I'm very happy to say I've gotten 4 new subscribers over the past week, which is very cool. 389, so I'm 11 away from 400, and that's my goal for by the end of the year is to get those 11 subscribers. So anybody that watches this, help me out to get a few more people in here. 400 would really make my year if we can get up to there. As I said, we had 22 people who have looked at the Buy It or Boot It. So very, very happy with all the interaction there. So thank you again, everyone, for doing that. Let's get into the stories. And this first one's going to come up from Jalopnik. It's been on a couple other sites. We'll see. So Cadillac, it's about time they're going to be ditching that stupid naming system that they've had, and they're going to start calling cars names again rather than CT6 or what was the CTS or CTV or whatever it might be. This story, and I do apologize, guys. I was running late tonight, and so I have not read through a lot of these stories. But Cadillac, during almost all of the Cadillac's early history, it called its cars by numbers before giving way to the 50s and the Coupe de Ville, Eldorado, and then they had the Calais Seville, Cimarron, which nobody liked, the Alante, which nobody liked. Before going to silly names like the ATS and the CTS and the CT6 and the whatever they are right now. So it's getting rid of, got rid of the names in the 2000s, just like the Germans, trying to be more like the Germans. And now that Cadillac is going to be going all electric by 2030, they're bringing names back. So let's wander through the story and see if they actually give any names. I would love to see some of the old-time names come back, Coupe de Ville, Eldorado, but I don't know that that's going to be the case. GM is using Cadillac to lead its electrification efforts, which I think is a smart move because they can actually charge a little bit more and make some money off of it. And they're getting rid of the CT4, blah, blah. Might suggest, they're suggesting names from GM history. The Cyclone, which, hey, Walt, thanks for coming in. Cyclone is a GMC. That's always going to be a GMC. Really, I would love to see a new Cyclone come out. That would completely rock the Casbah. Solitaire Starlight Director. Yeah. Now, again, bring back the old names. You know, Eldorado. I'm going to get it wrong. The Briots. I don't know, whatever, the 59 Cadillac with the huge fins and all that stuff. Yeah. Anyways, I do like this story. I think that the naming convention that most people, you know, car companies go with numbers and letters rather than actual names is nuts. And speaking of that, I don't have that story up, but I read a little bit earlier that Kia may be switching to the alphanumeric naming on their Optima, which is one of their best-selling cars, and I don't think it's a good idea. All right, our next story I also found on Jalopnik, and Morgan is going to ditch the steel chassis that it has had and it's been using since 1936. So I think that chassis and framework has definitely paid for itself over the years if it was brought out in 36. But way to go to come into the 21st century. Okay, unless you are nerdy or weird or both, probably don't find yourself thinking about Morgan too often. Yeah, not really, but when I see one, it's like, oh, cool, Morgan. Well, I'll have you know, low-volume boutique British automaker has some big changes planned for the new decade. Morgan will finally replace a chassis it introduced 83 years ago. Wow. 2019 Geneva Auto Show, Morgan introduced its new CX generation aluminum platform in the Morgan Plus 6, and the first of its cars to use it. This week, the company announced it will launch new models built on the CX platform, and Biarritz. Okay, thanks, Walt. I know I could, count on somebody to, help me pronounce that correctly. I don't know, how I feel. Morgan is one of those interesting classic car companies that hasn't changed a lot. I mean, still has, wood frame support in the vehicle, which is insane. But I don't know. I think there's something kind of cool and interesting about sticking with what you know. But so, what do you guys think? Think it's going to be a rough go for Morgan ditching their? Well, then again, they're ditching the steel chassis. It's probably the same exact design, just in aluminum. So it's not really changing, in my opinion. Okay, what do we got next? All right, 16 classic cars we love in spite of their flaws. All right. These classics all had an automotive Achilles heel. So let's go through here and see what they say. Yeah, hey, Trucker Dave, thanks for staying as long as you did. I definitely know you being a trucker, you have to be up early and out. So I'm just happy you're here for as long as you are. Take care, safe driving, and let's get back to the cars that we love in spite of themselves. The 911. Okay. The 996 version of the 911. And that is, that's a true thing. The headlights, this was the first of the water-cooled Porsches. Definitely an oddball in the Porsche lineup, but it also was one of the better ones, especially if you get kind of late in the 996, at least according to Tyler Hoover. Tyler Hoover, Hoovy's Garage. I always get that wrong. But the headlights were atrocious on the car, and but they're fairly cheap now, and a lot of people do still love to have them out there. The Corvette. Yeah, I'll go with that. The Corvette, of course, is the car that Ralph Nader brought down because of its the axle, the rear suspension on it. Those cars are great. I think they're the coolest things. They look good. The fact that it's a flat four and air cooled definitely was an oddball GM product. I think, like I say, I think they're cool. I think especially the later model, the second generation of the Corvette, and it would have been very interesting to see what they could have done with that car had Nader not screwed it up for them. What else we got in here? The Mini. Other than its size, what do they say is the flaws? 10-foot TARDIS was clever, but not without fault. The bouncy ride and rust in the external seams were some of the problems, but the biggest one only appeared in the rain. Distributor position on the front of the engine behind the grill meant the slightest sniff of moisture would kill it. Okay, well, I think they're cool, and I'm sure that its downfalls are very easily fixed for those that know what they're doing. The Audi TT was never really a huge fan. I know a ton of cars you may not have heard of. 66 Aero was sharp, absolutely. I'm sure that you've heard a lot of cars that I've never heard of. The 597, yep, Porsches, very cool cars, and I appreciate you being here, user tamer. Firebird still had the swagger, the scoops and spoilers, and the screaming chicken on the bottom bonnet, but by the mid 70s, yeah, it was not really a performance leader like the earlier cars. 185 horsepower out of a 6.6 liter is unfortunate, that's for sure, but definitely looks good. Nope, this one I cannot get behind. The Aston Martin Lagonda, too funky for my taste. The Olds Jetfire, okay. More than a decade before, turbocharged. That's something that I'm surprised that did not make its way into cars a lot earlier, but then again, technology not quite the way it was. One very cool car that was only produced for 2 years, the Volkswagen Ventura. Very cool. You do know your stuff. We'll have to check that out later. And again, very much appreciate you're here and in the chat. Triumph Stag. Saw one of these at a car show. Definitely an interesting vehicle. And a dent a bone. Triumph Spitfires. Yeah. Library axle. spit caused dangerous camber changes, which is basically the same thing that happened with the Corvette. I specialize specifically from cars in the 60s to and from Japan. I know some American cars. Cool. Well, hey, again, very happy that you're here. You know, we can definitely take a look at some of those cars towards the end if you're still with us. The Lotus Elite. I don't know that I've ever heard of the Elite, but a fiberglass monocoque. That's an interesting proposition.
You're not having the right light.
The E46 M3. Nice.
I had 68.
The NETVR definitely is a unique and kind of oddball, weird car, and I know that there are a lot of people out there that really love the TRVs. It's another one kind of like the Lagonda, that it's just a little too on the too funky for me to deal with. But this is something that I've always wanted to see. Never have had the opportunity other than in a Matchbox car, the Lancia Monte Carlo. It was sold briefly here in the States. I think it's a Scorpio, maybe, I think is the name of it. But that cool little car, very interesting proportions on it. Not bad. And is that it for it? Nope. Alfa Romeo Alpha Sud. I don't think that was ever sold here in the U.S. MGA twin cam. Yes, I've definitely seen some of these at the car shows, and it is a definite cool little car. And I've never even heard of that one, so that's not. Elite had a different styling in the 70s with regards to the Lamborghini Espada. Okay. I did not know that. I didn't even, like I say, I didn't even know the Elite existed. All right. 2021 Tahoe Suburban versus the 2019s. What changed other than the front styling? Next generation models come one of two ways. Either they get major revisions across the board, or they're mainly styling exercises, a couple of updates under the skin. In the case of the 2021 Tahoe and Suburban, it's the former. Both full-size SUVs get a thorough update that brings a number of major additions, including the availability of a diesel engine, which is interesting, and 10-speed automatic. I know that there's a lot of people out there that put diesels into their Tahoes, the Duramaxes, and it's nice that GM has finally caught on to the idea, because I'm sure there are some people out there that will love it and buy it up. Longer wheelbase. The Tahoe and Suburban are getting longer. I didn't think that was possible. 120.9 and 134.1 respectively. That's 4.9 inches and 4.1 inches longer than the outgoing models. Like I said, I didn't think it was possible to get any longer, but apparently I'm wrong. And the new Tahoe and Suburbans are getting bigger. Longer overall length. Oh, okay, the wheelbase is longer. That was wheelbase. Overall length is getting longer too. Wow. We're up to 210.7 inches for the Tahoe and 225.7 inches for the Suburban. Can't believe the Suburban is still in the line. It is very surprising, but the amount of money and vehicles between the Tahoes and the Suburbans they actually made is substantial. Yes, and the Suburban name has been in the Chevy lineup for a very long time, and I think the other funny thing is that there have been other companies that have used the Suburban name. Plymouth Suburban. There's a Plymouth Suburban. Was another, trying to remember what it was. Yeah, longest running nameplate. And if you caught the show last week, yep, the star on the Walk of Fame. It has been in at least one TV show and one movie since the 60s. So very, very popular. I've known several people that have had Suburbans over the years. My family's had a couple as well. So not surprising that it's going to stay in the lineup. I think that as far as keeping fuel economy up, I think the 10-speed automatic that's going in this will help that immensely. So very cool, very cool. All right. So the other day, Top Gear America was, the hosts were announced, and it's going to be led by Dax Shepard, who, if you don't know, he is married to Kristen Bell, who is, well, best known for, I don't know, she was in Veronica Mars. She's in The Good Place right now. She's also the voice of Anna in Frozen, so all you people out there that have kids, that's her husband. He is a car nut, just like not quite on the level of Jay Leno, because Jay Leno's got so many cars it's not funny. But it'll be good to have him because he also is funny, and it'd be good to get a little humor in that. We'll go with the other hosts in just a second. Let's see. The 60s was just full of baby boomers, money, family wagons, just made a ton of profits. Yeah. And the Suburbans are still making a ton of money for GM. Just rode with change. Yeah, I mean, they, other than the body style, exterior is really not a whole bunch that's changed. It's, the concept of the Suburban has not changed at all. Large body on frame, 2 4-wheel drive, big V8 engine, options. It's Suburban is awesome. All right. Let's get a little bit of background on Dax Shepard. 700 horsepower Buick Roadmaster wagon. Nice. I'm into all cars, Shepard told us. I can't think of well, that's not true. I'm not dying to drive something pre-40s, which is kind of what I'm like, but I like most everything you put gas in. Cool. Super into motorcycles, and not really. I'm really into off-road and like classic cars. Yes, sir. I think have eclectic taste. Sure. So he also has a Restomod 67 Lincoln Continental. Cool. Look at him sitting on the front of that Corvette. I do not revere numbers matching or original paint. That's kind of cool that he's into resto mods and whatnot. Okay, who is his other hosts? Sorry guys, this live stream's a little convoluted because I didn't have the time to read the stories up. Oh my gosh. I didn't really think that there was any 4-speed automatics out there anymore, but apparently Dodge has had one, and it's finally being axed after 32 years. Started life back in '89, and it was also upgraded to a 6-speed, but yeah. Dodge is believed to be working on a replacement for today's Journey SUV that could be based on the same platform that underpins the Stelvio and Giulia. Meanwhile, Fiat Chrysler has committed to invest no less than $9 billion in future products, which we talked about last week. What am I saying? Last year. it's not even, we're not even that close to 2020 yet. I guess we are, but try not to think about that. If you put two and two together, this means the Italian-American manufacturer would finally discontinue one of the longest-running transmissions in the automotive industry. 4-speed torque converter automatic will be axed next year. Information comes from the FCA's tentative agreement with the UAW, which confirms the Kokomo transmission plant will build out the last examples of the gearbox sometime in 2020, 32 years after the beginning of its production. Boy. It's been in everything from the Dodge Caravans, Chrysler New Yorker, and of course, the Journey. That would make a very interesting basis for the Journey. You're very true user tamer. A lot of very interesting and cool vehicles have gone the wayside. I am a huge fan of wagons like the Brookwood and the Kingwood. Caprice wagon, the Roadmaster wagons, but I understand kind of why they went out of style with SUVs the way they are, and definitely with the industry's trend towards SUVs and trucks. I don't think we'll ever see a station wagon from a U.S. automaker again. We talked about this a bit last week. Some of GM vehicles that are no longer going to be produced after 2020, and apparently the CT6 is going to get the axe a lot sooner than at least the article that I read last week suggested. So if you want a CT6, get one quick, because at the end of this month or next month in January, no more. CT6 received one stay of execution earlier this year, but it looks like the luxury sedan won't get another. Production of the luxury flagship sedan will definitively end in January. Thereafter, 814 hourly and salaried workers connected to the CT6 production will get their walking papers. It's a good-looking car. I can't, say it's not, but like I said earlier, I don't know that the naming architecture that they have used over the past 20 or so years has helped them trying to compete. I think that there are car companies out there that do very well with the normal names. I mean, look at Chevy and Dodge has got real names, and of course Ford has real names for most of their vehicles. I think that Europeans do like their S500s and whatnot, but that's the way that their naming conventions really have always been. BMW 2002. It's kind of it's not something that us as Americans have known or understand. So I think an American company should stick with the normal naming conventions, and then if they wanted to sell this in Europe, maybe go with the CT6. Anyways, GM has a name in almost every other major import country, and thus in securing their sales. Yep, they made cars specifically for Brazil, Europe in general, and hold a strong presence there. Absolutely. Brazil, Ford and GM are like two of the real major players, there, and they have some of the coolest cars too. I feel bad for Australia, now that their car industry has been destroyed. But you know, it is what it is. Two major continents is really a major standpoint. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think GM, I think they did themselves a disservice by, you know, selling Opel.
Where do you go to the cargo pod?
They had some good cars that came out of there. You know, the Regal was a really nice vehicle. The, what do I want to say there? Gosh, can't think of it. The it's built with the Sky and the Solstice. Anyways, yeah, Holden, which is, you know, as I said, was owned by GM. I think they did a huge disservice. GM did by stopping production of the vehicles and, you know, importing everything. Granted, I do not know the politics behind it. I don't know if the government made it too difficult, but Holden over the years has made some absolutely stunning cars, performance-wise and just look-wise. We did, thank God, get to see a few of them here in the States, but I think it was a real disservice for GM to kill the homegrown Holdens.
No, we have one team life.
Yes. Oh, yes. GM, you're absolutely right. User Tamer. They put out some really fantastic cars in other countries, and it's the same thing with pretty much any of the, like, the European country. You know, your European companies. There's so many cars that it's either taken so long for them to come to the States that they're not really interesting, or just didn't bring cars here, that it's just a shame. So Mitsubishi is a strong whole presence in Japan, and last 30 years made their way to Australia, like GM. Yeah. Mitsubishi is a company that I think their best days were behind them. I'm sure in you know, Japan and whatever they're sending to Australia is a lot better than what we have. But I think that they did a huge disservice by naming an SUV an Eclipse. But anyways, alrighty then. According to GM, the 2020 Corvette C8 is sold out even before production begins. Production of the 2020 C8 doesn't begin until early February, but with all the advanced orders, it's already sold out. That really is not surprising in my opinion. I think that they're not really going to be sold out. I think that they've sold what they said that they're going to sell, but I'm fairly confident that once production starts rolling, they will continue to, you know, put out cars, and people will get orders sooner than they think. They were banned from making planes after World War II, so they could decide. So they decide to make one of the fastest saloon cars ever built. Basically, they perfected it. You know, yeah. That was the thing with most of the Japanese companies after World War II. They were not allowed to do a lot of stuff, and definitely not planes, because, you know, we didn't want the possibility of them to get back up and try to start, you know, the war again. But in the Mitsubishi Zero, by far one of the best planes in the Pacific Theater. They made some really good planes. Now they make everything else. Air conditioners, you know, you name it, they make it.
No.
So enthusiasts have waited decades for the GM to finally make it to mid-engine. And let's see how many. Does it say in here how many they think they've got on order? Allotment was about 40,000 for the U.S. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they're going to be making more than 40,000, you know, this year. Even with the cars that they're going to be sending overseas, I definitely think that they're going to be selling a lot of these cars. It is a great looking car, and the value for what you get in these things, amazing.
Nice.
Okay. Anybody want to know what a $4 million Corvette looks like? There it is. This is a 1967 Corvette with the original L88 427 big block under the hood. The L88 engine is legend in its own right. Most Corvette fitted with a massive power plant hit the track for race duty. This one survives as a road-going car. And it is worth $3.95. That's what they're expecting it to bring at auction when it comes up shortly. There are only 20 of these cars, and 10 of them are left today. This one is a Sunfire yellow model. Three still house the original engine, which again doesn't surprise me because a lot of people would have taken the L88 out and put in their race cars. 2 convertibles in this Sunfire coupe, very cool. 500 horsepower. I am passionate about cars, but not too many, in my humble opinion, are worth over $1 million. I think as the cars, especially quote unquote numbers matching originals, it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't sort of thing. I think that they're worth it, but I don't know that they are because, you know, cars are meant to be driven, and it'd be hard to drive a $4 million Corvette around. But anyway, she is a beauty. I do love that color. Japan has made a ton of cars, never exported. Yes, and I'm so happy that we do have that 25-year rule, so we can start getting a lot of the cars that they make over there that we can finally see here. You know, Cappuccino, the Skylines, the Figaros for those that like the, you know, those little things. GTO, FTOs, they make a lot of amazing performance cars over there, and they take much better, in most cases, take much better care of their cars. So it's almost like getting a new car when you get one brought over here and get to buy it. Wow. That I've said it before.
Key cards.
Yes, this is an important car, but a car that's only got 264 miles on it after 52 years, that's insane. That is stupid. Cars are meant to be driven.
I can't be injured while I'm hacking this.
All right, I'm gonna blow a gasket. That's just. All right. British cars not originally sold in the U.S. that should have been. We talked about this earlier. A lot of cars that were built overseas that we didn't get. We're gonna quickly go through all these, and I've got a couple of recalls, and then we're going to call it a night. Jaguar XFRS Sport Brake. So basically, station wagon. That is very cool, and yes, we won't see that for many, many years. The Noble M600, again, that and the 400 and the 200. The 2 and 400, I think we can now get. I think they're old enough. But the 600 being one of the latest and greatest, eventually be able to get. Still with the 600.
Okay. Two people defend.
MGF. Sorry. I don't know. Nah, no. Striga would later be sold outside of Japan as the Forester.
They got it taken care of.
Sorry. Honda, Nissan, Subaru started a competition to make the best family wagon. Okay. Honda, Nissan came out with a Wingroad, and Subaru came out with a Striga. Yeah. I think I vaguely remember the Mighty Car Mods guys talking about the Striga. Very cool. And I do have to say, User Tamer, I do appreciate you being in the live stream and bringing all these amazing bits of knowledge, because I'm definitely learning something from you. So thank you.
All right, I got the drill, don't worry.
No, still doesn't look good as convertible. Yes, the Lotus Exige, which we got the second generation Exige here in the States, but I do like the kind of bug-eyed look of the first gens. A few more years and we'll be able to bring them in. Aston Martin Vantage. No. This is another one of those Aston Martins, 80s Aston Martins that just didn't do it for me.
All right.
The Elise, again, it's basically the same thing as the Exige, except for the removable roof, and that bug eye definitely, I think, looked a little bit better than what we got for the second gen. The XJ220. XJ220, if I remember correctly, that was supposed to have a V12 in it, and then cost overruns, and they ended up putting a twin turbo V6, and a lot of customers were very upset with that because it was not what they paid for. But it is a stunning car. The Lotus Carlton, which was an Opel to begin with, I believe. That's the Donut Media had a very interesting one of their videos about Lotus and one of their up to speed things. It was very interesting when they said that they could do a whole nother show on just cars that Lotus had some sort of input in, like the Carlton, the Cortina from back in the 60s. A lot of cars that have a lot of Lotus technology in them that you may not know about, and that was very very cool that Lotus has that ability to really work well with other companies. This is a car that I think is beautiful as it is kind of simple. The Escort RS Cosworth, weird wing, but when you know that this was a rally car, definitely see that it serves its purpose, and definitely a car that is, I would buy one if it were here in the States. Plus, from what I understand, they scream. All right. Last couple articles. There are a couple of recalls, including this one for the Ford Super Duty with 547,000 being recalled over post-crash fire risk. And these were the same, a very similar reason to the 500,000 or so GM trucks that were earlier this year that they recalled. Let's see. The front seatbelt pretensioner that deploys during a crash could generate excessive sparks and possibly ignite a fire. That, not a good thing, because a lot of times when the pretensioners go off, they kind of lock that seatbelt in and you can't get it unbuckled. And if it starts a fire, not a good idea. So these are 2017 through 2019 F Super Duties, F body or F series Super Duties, 490,000 in the U.S. and our territories, 56,000 in Canada and just under 1,000 in Mexico. So affected vehicles were built from October 2015 through October 2019. I wonder why that's 15 and that's a 17 model there. Interesting. Anyways, Super Duties being recalled for fire potential. And Subaru's getting another recall for loss of power. I think I remember this a similar thing from a few months ago, perhaps. Subaru is recalling certain Crosstreks, Foresters, and Ascents, and Impreza hatchbacks and sedans because they could lose power suddenly while driving and cause a crash. A faulty part in the engine could allow oil to enter places it shouldn't. Pieces of the part could also separate and damage other engine components. Not good. If this happened, the driver could notice an increased amount of tailpipe exhaust, potentially bluish or grayish in color. So 2018 Crosstreks, 83,000 of them. 2017 and 18 Impreza hatchbacks, another 80,000. 17 and 18 Impreza sedans, 41,000 of them. 33,000 Foresters from 2019 models, 18,000 2019 Ascents, and 37, well,
you guys are going to appreciate the
37 Crosstrek plugins are proud of that problem, and that doesn't really surprise me. The positive crankcase ventilation valve, the PCV valve, could break and get into the oil and cause all that havoc. So it's a good thing that's getting taken care of as well.
What the hell? Guys, get back in.
All right, guys. Let's go back over here.
Guys, go
thank you, everyone that stuck around for tonight's car chat with Kip. Next week, I will be home earlier and can be a little bit more prepared. And I do, again, want to thank everyone who watched Buy It or Boot It, the premiere. Get the word out on that because it's a bunch of fun and would love to have all of you come over and have some fun on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. So come and join us for Buy It or Boot It, 8 p.m. on Wednesday. And I think it's, yes, next week. I don't know if Jason's still in the chat or not. Where the Car Guy and Six Fan are going to have a Christmas special. So go over there and check them out as well. And on that note, we're going to close it like we do with all of our videos. Dreams without ambition is like a car without gas. Not going to get very far. God bless. Take care. Have a good night.